So I'm talking to Fikayo Ogundipe, who is co-founder and CEO of Property Pro in Nigeria. Fikayo, thanks very much for talking to us today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
First, for those who don't know, could you tell us a little bit about Property Pro?
So Property Pro is a portal out of Nigeria. We've been in the market for roughly 10 years. We are a portal focused on the rental classified and the sales classifieds platform. Everything real estate, that's what we do. Along this journey in the last 10 years, we've acquired one of our major competitors called Jumia House Nigeria, sometimes in 2018. We serve quite a couple of areas across the Nigerian markets. We equally do have a bit of a setup in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, as well in Uganda.
Okay, and how is it that you guys monetize, and who are your main customers?
So right now we have two business models, right? So one is we charge the regular subscription model across all our agents. You pay a fee to list your listings on our platform. And as well, we do charge developers commissions for a process where we help them to sell their inventory.
Okay. How big is your team, and how kind of hands-on do you personally get in day-to-day operations?
So we're like 40 plus people. We run like a remote and on-the-ground system. So for our developer program, we have a lot of people on ground, but for our subscription, process, we do have a remote team that kind of addresses that model.
All right. So I want to move on. I want to talk a little bit more about the specifically the Nigerian market in general. Now, what is the biggest, let's say, operational challenge operating a portal in Nigeria? Is it, that the market's still quite young, or is it hiring kind of tech staff? What's the biggest challenge for you?
I would say, easily the market is still early. We've been doing this for like 10 years, and I'm saying it's still early because we've not been able to, portals across, in the Nigerian market have not been able to extract as much value from like the agents in the last, maybe 8 years. But in the last 2 years, it's been promising, very good growth across like, anything like, post-COVID has been great. And I think in the next couple of years, I think it's going to get better.
Okay. Is it a question of like the agent kind of commission pool that you're trying to tap into isn't big enough? Or is it maybe agents need to be, I don't know, educated about the benefits of using a portal? Or is it that everything's done very informally and kind of offline? Or is it a mixture of all of that?
Yeah, it's a mixture of all of that. From the culture of, renting is still really done offline, I think. And sales being done offline, I think, and as well as maybe the agents on ground not seeing enough value being, given back to them in terms of what they could pay us as a platform. So generally speaking, I think in Nigeria, our average revenue per agent or per user is still pretty low, even kind of compared to like global players, vis-a-vis the amount of agents in the market. I think we are somewhere around, $25 to $30 in average revenue per user per month. So it's either we have a lot of agents that are willing to pay that amount of money, or we have, a smaller size willing to pay a lot more in that, revenue for subscription per month. So, to my point is, across the market, we still see that early. So we expect that more and more agents could get monetized across the coming years.
Okay, and what's the split between primary and secondary real estate? I know in many developing markets, especially kind of Latin America, it's very primary focused, at least in terms of where portals make their revenue. Is it the same for you?
It's similar, very similar to what we do in Nigeria as well.
Okay, so how has the market changed? So you said we've been saying it's too early for 10 years. How has the market changed in the last 10 years or so?
Oh, so so after COVID, a lot of agents now, automatically saw value in the results we're giving to them, and just by default, because people could not do things on the road, they had to do things out of their computers and their mobile phones. So just by that, they started to gravitate towards our platform. And now, they're getting, kind of used and accustomed to doing business online on their phones. So that's been the process. So I mean, with that, that trickles down to more revenue per this agent as we go, and equally more of them coming to our platform. So again, like I said, it's been a journey. It's still pretty early in the markets. We see that the next 5 years will be, kind of like tremendous growth, like, we envisage across like this subscription model which we're running.
Okay, and I think I'm right in thinking that maybe not specifically you guys, but one of your investors, Frontier Digital Ventures, they report their West Africa segment, which you guys are a part of.
Yeah.
I believe I'm right in saying you're EBITDA positive now, or at least that reporting segment is EBITDA positive. How like excited are you, and how excited are Frontier Digital Ventures about the potential for the Nigerian market?
Oh yeah, I mean it's good. I mean, we've been profitable for roughly about 2 years now. So I think the whole idea is for us to keep being able to be revenue funded by the users. I think it makes things much more like easier to run when you're profitable, as to trying to burn enough cash to kind of bring up more market share for the current business. So I think it's great news that that we're profitable.
Okay, and kind of on the back of that, obviously Frontier Digital Ventures are in this market. Property 24 are in this market as well, so that's Naspers. But researching the Nigerian market, it didn't seem to me like there are too many other really big global classifieds players. Why aren't more big global classifieds players in the market? It seems like a good market to get into, to me as an outsider.
Well, I think just what I said earlier, is the fact that the market is still, it's been, in terms of value, we've had some other people come here in the past, not necessarily that, we're the ones here right now. I think the issue has been extracting value from the Nigerian markets across those years. But I think right now it's getting better. So I think I would expect that more players might get into the market in the next coming years. But previously, it's been kind of hard to extract value from like agent ecosystem in Nigeria. So I think those issues, are the issues that are plaguing other people from coming to Nigeria. But I would say in Nigeria, we have ourselves, we have Property 24 is not very dominant in Nigeria as such. They're very little player in the markets, but we have dominancy from private property and as well as Nigeria Property Center. So those are like two major vertical players that that we have as competition in the market.
Okay, so we've been talking about Nigeria, but this series that this interview is part of is kind of looking at Africa more broadly. And we kind of, or at least I'm guilty of this as a journalist, we tend to lump Africa, especially like sub-Saharan Africa, in together when we think about real estate markets. Is that fair? I imagine you're going to say not at all.
No, it's not fair. But again, like each market is unique, but there are quite some similarities in how the market operates. But again, like if you're trying to scale across those markets, each market is unique. Kenya is different from Nigeria, different from Zimbabwe, Ghana is different, but we do have some similarities in data points if you're trying to execute across the key markets.
Yeah, so you mentioned you guys obviously started in Nigeria, but you've moved to a few other markets. Have you hired local staff, or is it kind of a copy and paste job across those different country borders?
So we run all those other portals from Nigeria. Like we don't have any staff on ground in those countries, but we kind of run all that operations out of Nigeria currently.
Okay. So I get the impression that some African markets, as in the case with like India, it's a case where some of these big classifieds companies are going to these markets and kind of waiting for them to become profitable. They go there, they try to be the first mover, they try to get a lead in terms of traffic, and they're willing to take a bit of a hit on the bottom line until the market matures. Like I think that's the case in India with REA Group. Is that fair to say for a market like Nigeria, or do you think that kind of outside investment isn't maybe as cynical as that?
Well, yeah, I think India is a very unique market. I think the stakes are high in India, very large population. I think for Africa as well, I think Africa as well could be in that same category. If you look at the whole population, I think we're like 1 billion plus. But I think, yes, I think it's a good strategy for them to do that, because at some point the market is going to catch up to all the investment they've done over time. So I think that's a good strategy if, if they've done all the, projections to see, if the cumulative effect of all this, agents or whatever model they're trying to run in the markets kind of, tallies up to what the investment size has been in the market. I think it makes sense. I think it's a fair strategy. In Nigeria, we've had some people that have invested and have kind of burnt out in the process because they've not been able to extract that value, but cannot keep burning more. So I think each market is kind of unique to how the strategy is going to play out.
Okay, fair enough. All right, last question from me. What are some of the innovations or interesting and exciting kind of things in property marketplaces or PropTech in general that you've seen maybe in Nigeria or maybe further afield that that I should know about and that our audience should know about?
Oh yeah, there's some interesting plays. I think some platforms are trying to do some sort of iBuying, but that's very difficult. But they're trying to do that in the market. We currently see some people trying to do like short-term rentals. Platforms like Splits and I think Rent Small are trying to like a model where people can get like a space for a night, or where they could equally help them to equally pay their rent as well. I think those are equally smart platforms I think I've seen around. I think pretty much I think that's it. So as a recap is housing for rentals per night, and as well as trying to upside the rents for the tenants on a monthly basis. So that solution is where a user wants to pay his rent for a year but can't get it paid because they don't have the capital for it. So a platform steps in, like Splits, helps them to pay that amount, and they kind of get the money back monthly.
Yeah, I've seen them. They seem really interesting, I've got to say. Okay, Fikayo, thank you so much for talking to us today. It's really interesting talking about the Nigerian market with a real expert, and I hope you keep in touch.
Thank you very much.